Hello and welcome to another edition of Diminishing Returns. This week we're looking at the Fast and the Furious franchise that started in 2001 and now has an absolutely staggering 8 films to its name, with another 2 greenlit and I'm sure more to follow beyond then. In the spirit of things, I'll make this intro as fast as possible. Let me just say this episode contains spoilers for The Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, which is inexplicably a different film, Fast 5, Furious 6, and Furious 7. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Diminishing Returns. We are doing the Fast and Furious, whatever they're called, films. Fast, Too Furious.
We'll get into that.
Furious 5, 7. I don't really know what to call the franchise, but we're doing those car films, and it's going to be fun. And yeah, Furious, fun and furious. So I'm Sol. And as always, with me today is Bargain Bin Jimmy Carr, Calvin Dyson.
Yo.
was that a Jimmy Carr impression?
No, that was my Vin Diesel impression.
Oh, okay. And I've not got one for you, Alan. So
oh, great. I'm the Paul Walker of Diminishing Returns.
What, poorly CGI rendered in the final moments?
My brother's going to take my place.
That'd work out quite well, I think. Yeah.
It'd probably be alright.
I think Paul Walker's a bit too good for Alan, to be honest. I think you're more on ludicrous level, if I'm being honest.
Well,
which one's ludicrous?
Can I be one of those Puerto Rican ones that they don't bring back?
Well, hang on, because we started having this discussion a tiny bit before we actually started recording this episode, and then Calvin sort of told me off and said we needed to press record because we were losing gold. So we were just discussing about how I can't remember who any of the characters are.
Right.
Yeah. You said they all look alike to you. Those people. Is that what you said?
Well, I think I've mentioned in a previous episode of this podcast that I cannot tell the difference between Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Alone.
Oh, wait. We'll come on to that. Let's wait for the 4th film, or which
okay.
It is he's coming.
Wait. So what? They're not in all of them.
Did you watch them?
Yeah, but I can't tell them apart.
Well, one of them is in every one of them at least a bit, apart from the second.
This is really hurting my head, guys. I can't.
Well, right, we're gonna have to take it in chronological order, right? Because it's the only logical way. And
all right. So there's Paul Walker. There's Vin Diesel.
Yes.
Later on is The Rock.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. There's Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes.
Who's that?
Gal Gadot.
Who?
She's Giselle, the one that...
Giselle, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's Jason Statham. I know he is.
Jason Statham.
And that always really kind of broke the reality of the films for me when he showed up, because it was like, oh, I actually can tell this person apart from everyone else.
But in the very first film, Humble Beginnings, it's pretty much just Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, and Jordana Brewster, and released in 2001. It's quite a humble start to what has become a Universal Studios' highest-grossing franchise of all time.
In terms of 2001, if we look at it contextually, what was going on at the time? Because where was Vin Diesel? When was Pitch Black made? Was that the year before?
Well, The Iron Giant had just come out a couple of years prior. Vin Diesel's masterpiece. And if you close your eyes and listen to this film, you could quite easily believe that, because it's just lots of mechanical noises and Vin Diesel occasionally going, family. So you could easily believe it was a sequel to that film.
It's a Frankenstein Vin Diesel. Family good.
But so the first film was very much made as an exploration of this particular kind of culture that was sort of underground at the time and wasn't really known too well in the mainstream. It's certainly not. Would you call it an action film? I'd be hesitant to use that term.
Yeah, I would.
I don't know, not in the same way the later ones are, because they obviously didn't have the budget for it.
It's very much resigned to a handful of sequences where it sort of says, right, we're going to do some action now. But I do think that the film is kind of built around those set pieces enough to consider it to be an action film. I don't know.
I don't think we're going to be talking much about plot in this show, but I think to sum up the plot of the first film, it's basically Point Break with cars.
Point Break.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even. I was so shocked by that because when I was watching it, it's not even similar. It's a remake of Point Break. I mean, were there legal ramifications of this? Because it feels like there should have been.
Apparently not. No. Which is quite astonishing.
Exactly the same.
It is like undercover cop has to infiltrate a world in which he knows nothing about, but then he's slowly seduced by it, and there's a bit of a homoeroticism between the two.
Was Point Break the very first film to do that? Because
not.
It strikes me like that's just such a sort of cliched story now anyway.
I know it'll have been done before. It's not just that story element that's the same, though. It's the fact that it's kind of about an adrenaline junkie kind of gets drawn into
so.
as well. It's all that. Yeah. It's kind of, there's so many other elements.
You know what else struck me about? I think the first two films in the series come in this bracket. How kind of lame they are. Like the opening is like it's this heist. Like the opening of the first film is this heist, and they're stealing stuff on this van, and they're stealing like these DVD players and massive like TVs. This is like before flat screens apparently, and that's the whole crux of the film is that Paul Walker's investigating Vin Diesel because he thinks he's stolen all these DVD players and he's going to make a mint off of them. And it's, but you know, when it's just that level of shitness where it thinks it's being really cool, but it's just not like, I kind of, the thing that helps me contextualize this film and the second one are American Pie and Grand Theft Auto, because these films, along with those two, just sum up like being like, because I was 12 years old when this film came out, and that was like, it was made for 12 and 13, 14-year-olds. This is not like, no adult could seriously watch this and take it seriously, surely.
Well, I made a similar note, which I think is exactly what you just said, which is I think the target demographic of these films is the same target demographic for Lynx deodorant. I think that is exactly what you're getting at as well.
Yeah, you nailed it.
You know, it's funny. I don't think people really consider the first three films anymore. To say that the whole thing is, I was astonished at how tight the continuity is between all these films. But we'll get onto that later, because I don't think that people really consider the series as starting back in 2001. I think people consider it now starting with the fourth film, to be honest. Fast and Furious is what it's called, which is a very confusing title.
Yeah, like what was that all about? Can we talk about the name conventions in this? Just how these films are named? Because I hate it. Well,
it's the one that's the second one.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Fast, Too Furious. Yes. That might be the most offensive title I've ever seen.
Really? I don't think it's as bad as other films in this franchise.
I hate anything where they're using numbers as words.
Yeah, but I mean, it fits with the vibe of the film. I mean, it's tacky and rubbish, but like at least it sort of makes a degree of logical sense.
No, it's terrible.
The Squeakquel.
Oh, it's it's awful. But is it really worse than the fourth film just being called Fast and Furious? Dropping the or two of the these, like surely that's worse. And then what was the fifth one called?
Fast Five.
Fast Five.
Faster and Furiouser.
And then was it was Fast Five, Furious 6, is that it?
No. Fast and Furious 6.
They were all called Fast and Furious, just the number.
No, they weren't.
No, they weren't.
No, they weren't. They've all been like retroactively rebranded as like Fast and Furious 5, 6, 7, but they were called. Let me look it up. Right, so
no, I know it's the Fast and the Furious, then Too Fast, Too Furious, then the Fast and the Furious hyphen Tokyo Drift.
Yes.
So Fast and Furious, Fast 5. Fast and Furious 6.
No.
Furious 7.
No. No, it was Fast 5, then it was Furious 6.
No, it wasn't. It was Furious 7.
It was Furious 6 with the number 6, and then it was Furious 7, but 7 was written out as a whole word. And the eighth one...
I don't know what you're looking at. Is this because they call them different things in different territories, don't they?
Yeah, but the original name that it was released with was Furious 6.
Oh.
The new one's called Fast and Furious. It's Gur 8.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's called The Fate of the Furious. And I'm pretty sure they're spelling that F8, but I haven't seen anything to confirm either way.
Oh, God.
I can only assume that's what they're doing.
Now it makes sense. I was wondering why they called it that, but yeah, it's the 8, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
It's pathetic.
It should be called
stupid.
Just the Furious. Now,
like I hope when they get to the 12th one, it's called 12 Furious Men. That's my note for them. I was hoping after Fast and Furious came out that they were just going to follow that for a while, that convention of just like chopping a bit off the name each time. So it'd just go like Fast and Furious, Fast Furious, Fast Fur, FFF. And then they could just release a film with like no title whatsoever, and that the title is nothing.
Anyway, going back to the first films in the franchise, like we said, I don't think it was well received critically, but the first film did make a nice bit of money, so it obviously got a sequel. But Vin Diesel didn't come back for it. And they got Tyrese Gibson instead.
Was this a couple of years later?
Yes, 2003 is when it came out. And that's when Vin Diesel was in his sort of, I don't do sequels. A bit like a Jim Carrey, sort of like Tom Cruise, Will Smith. Like, I don't do sequels. So I'm an actor. I want to do new things. Apart from one thing, like Tom Cruise had always come back for Mission Impossible, and Vin Diesel was so desperate to get a Riddick film off the ground. So the franchise rested on Paul Walker.
Well, that's something no studio head wants to hear.
Yes. So bring in Tyrese, and they'll have... What is even the plot of this one? I can't remember what this one is even about. I just remember Tyrese cracking wise and...
Yeah, I want to say straight up front, Too Fast, Too Furious, despite the title, is my favourite of the lot.
What
the
God. Fuck? Go away, Alan.
Dear Lord.
Piss off.
Because it's the comedy one. It's a rip-off of Bad Boys, and I like Bad Boys. So, I like Bad Boys more than Point Break, so therefore I like this one.
God.
Well, on this note, should we quickly, like, how do we all feel about the first one? It's shit, right?
That's a good point, actually.
Do you know what? It wasn't as bad as I... In fact, my experience with this whole franchise was that it wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting.
I had a similar experience, because I'd seen the first two when I was younger, and I always thought these are fucking terrible, and I hate them, and I came back to watch them, because it's been a long time since I've seen them, and I haven't, like... I don't like them any more than I used to, but they're not... It's weird. I think they're really bad films, but they're not as offensively bad. They're not as viscerally awful as, like, Resident Evil is. I'd put them on a similar...
Wow.
I'd put them on a similar level in terms of the filmmaking, but just something about it doesn't upset me in the same way. I think they're shit, and, like, I'm talking, like, 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 levels of shit, but I don't get upset by them in the same way. It's weird.
No, I think they're completely far superior to likes of Resident Evil. Not to say they're particularly good, but I found them all, not all of them, but most of them quite watchable. just as a kind of, they're doing what they're doing. Well, for me, the second one is the only one I'd want to be interested in watching again.
I love Tyrese, like, in the later films, but in this one, I find him intolerable. It's a race to the bottom between this one and the third one for me. Should we move on to the third?
Now, this is by far the worst one as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I would probably agree with that. It's certainly the oddest one in the thing. It's obviously they didn't quite know what to do with the franchise, which is odd because the last one was a success, but they decided just to, from the title alone, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. This was like going to be the new beginning, and we were going to be following this new character and his global trips around the world. Vin Diesel only reappears at the end in a very small cameo, and the only reason he agreed to do that cameo is because Universal Studios weren't going to make another Riddick film, and he wanted the rights to it, and they said, well, if you go in this film at the end, we'll give you the rights.
I remember this being very much... like, I remember this film not being received well. I remember fans of the first two thinking it was shit. I remember critics saying, this one is really bad. So I don't think anyone liked it at all. It's kind of odd that they kept going with it, I guess. But, I mean, I guess they're glad they did. To be honest, I don't think there's much different in the way of quality between the second, third, or fourth film. I think they're all atrocious.
I think that the fourth film gets a little bit of residual goodwill just because it's the returning characters again, and even if I didn't necessarily like them all that much in the first two films, I'd still feel something for them.
You know what? The fourth film's my least favourite, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I more than anything, I think it's just that it was really starting to wear thin on me by that point. I just thought, how many times can they just make me sit down and watch people driving? This is so boring. Is the fourth one that opens that weird drag race and the woman says, like, you can win me or something? And
isn't that all of them?
That's the third one with the young buck, and he's
it is,
and he's going up against the kid from Home Improvement.
Oh, yes! I forgot he was in there.
Now, that sequence, that as an action sequence, I thought far surpassed anything in the first two films. And I remember sitting up and thinking, oh, okay, I might actually not hate this so much. And the second it was over, same old shit. And this is something I noticed throughout the franchise was... they often start with quite a good action sequence that I think, okay, this isn't too bad. I can get on board with this. And then, that it becomes very apparent after 10 minutes or whatever, when the action sequence is over and the film starts, that they haven't really got anything else. And there's maybe going to be another big action sequence at the end of the film. But I don't know, because I'm not opposed to mindless action necessarily. If you do tongue-in-cheek stuff. I mean, when Jason Statham shows up, it just reminds me of the Crank movies, which I love, and that's the same sort of just balls-to-the-wall nonsense action. But it's done with such a sense of humour that just isn't present in these films that, I don't know, it just...
The thing that annoyed me the most about the third film is that it's all about drifting. Now, we've seen drifting in the other two films.
Tokyo drifting.
And... yeah, well, yes. And the character is like, there are several characters in the film who are like, oh, I don't know what drifting is. I don't know what drifting is. It's like, I was playing Mario Kart in this film. Like, I know what drifting is. Like, God. And the idea that they make the whole film about him learning how to drift, and at the end he drifts and then he saves the day. It's just like...
I mean, Cars did the same thing. Pixar's Cars.
A film aimed at 6-year-olds. Well, I mean, I did appreciate in Tokyo Drift that they changed location. That made it feel a bit more fresh. And then they'd had to adapt the kind of racing style to fit this smaller, tighter environment. And I kind of liked that as a concept. In the first ones, it's like, because it's just drag racing, it's literally like, put your foot down, who's got...
yeah, go down the street and then turn around and come back.
Yeah. So when it becomes proper racing and there's a bit more tactics and all that kind of thing involved, it's more interesting.
I mean, one thing I will say is Justin Lin came on board the franchise, who's directed quite a few of them with the third one. And,
4 of them, yeah.
I mean, he's the guy who kind of turned things around for them, weirdly enough, to say he directed the least well-received of their films. he's very much the guy who shepherded the franchise into its more modern incarnation. But
well, do you know that here's an interesting piece of trivia for you. The guy who directed the second film is John Singleton, who is the youngest ever person nominated for Best Director Oscar when he was 23.
Really?
He was nominated for Best Director for Boys in the Hood.
Oh,
Jesus.
right. Oh, I didn't realise that was him. Okay, wow.
Huh.
Youngest by a long way. A very well-respected director at one point.
So then it's interesting because, obviously Fast and the Furious was not well received. I think we all agree it's one of the worst, if not the worst. So Tokyo Drift, yes, sorry. So then we come back next with Fast and Furious, and...
The Fast and the Furious?
No, just Fast and Furious, the fourth film in the Fast and
similar.
Furious saga. But there is a character returning from Tokyo Drift, Han, played by Sung Kang, who dies in Tokyo Drift. So when he pops up at the very start of Fast and Furious, I just think, oh, okay, well, we disregard that film from continuity, apparently, but maybe this character is just the same character, but people like him, so we're bringing him back. It is what I thought it was.
Yeah, it was a strange thing to do. I mean, how popular must he have been on set? That guy must be a fucking great guy to work with.
Well,
the amount of effort they've gone to get him into 3 more films.
This is the thing. He's really good friends with the director, Justin Lin.
There you go.
That character actually appeared in a previous Justin Lin film. Like the same character,
right?
So, and he just wanted his mate in the film, and he was like, "Oh, what's your character going to be like?" And they're like, "Oh, should we just do that character in this?" They're like, "Yeah, okay then." So they just did that.
It's like how Jay and Silent Bob just pop up in all of Kevin Smith's movies.
Because then I start thinking, well, that must be out of the continuity, but then the character keeps referring to, oh, I might go to Tokyo next year or something, and it's like, oh, okay, then I didn't realise that that Tokyo Drift was set later on in the continuity and now we're years back or something. It's a very confusing timeline initially. The timeline has only just caught up with itself with Furious 7, presumably because they just kept wanting to bring back this Sung Kang guy because his mates with the director.
So as soon as Justin Lin shot off, so did Sung Kang.
Yep, seems that way. So Fast and Furious. Sol, you mentioned that this one didn't have much of a unique flavour, but I think the intention of the unique flavour is that it's meant to be the reuniting of all the original cast members.
Yeah, and that's literally the opposite of a unique flavour. It's nostalgia. Let's go back to the first film again.
Yeah.
Is this the one with where they go into Wario's mine shaft or whatever it's called?
Yes.
See, that was something of a unique element to it, I guess, but it was just a bit... It wasn't as heavily Mario Kart as I would have liked.
Does Michelle Rodriguez die in this one?
This is the one where Michelle Rodriguez dies, yes.
Oh, right,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
And then, so that's what the motivation for Vin Diesel's character is pursuing revenge.
See, that was really confusing as well, because I remember me and Alan met up to go to the cinema last week to watch Power Rangers, and I just watched Fast and Furious the previous night, and then we're sat there watching thing, and the trailer for the latest one comes on, The Fate and the Furious, and Michelle Rodriguez is in it, and I'm like, oh, okay, then, well, I guess, I mean, maybe she comes back, maybe she's alive, or maybe that one is set previously in continuity, I don't know, these don't seem to have a problem with it. So I knew she wasn't dead.
So what?
Sorry, that was a really weird intonation for that sentence, wasn't it? Shall I do that again? No. So I knew she wasn't dead. There we go. That's for the edit. Yeah.
I tell you what, this is another thing that really wound me up in the later films. If this fucking cunt goes on about family anymore,
oh God, I know.
Like, God's sake, we get it.
Well, that's
that's
what they're selling the entire 8th film on.
Exactly, but it's just so overdone.
I know, it drives me crazy. Particularly given that they're only really using family as an abstract concept by the end of it. So what's the point? Like, either it's...
I don't even get the sense that they meet each other in between exploits. Like, they only really seem to meet up whenever there's a job to be done. They don't seem to, hang out or anything.
Well, that's it. Like, when they're all living together in the big house, then it's one thing. But also, like, there's 2 guys who are in the family in the 5th film who are forgotten about by the 7th film because it's like, oh, where are those 2 guys? Oh, yeah, they went off with their money somewhere. So they're like the cousins of the family who sort of drifted away. But also, like this family is built of, because the message is like you choose the family you choose, and like it means more rather than just who you were born with, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it's also like it's just the people who you grew up with, and I don't know why there's a difference between friends and family. Like, where's the line? Where does it become more than?
I mean, it's a load of bollocks, basically. It's ill-defined nonsense that they've written into the film to try and give it some emotional stakes and gravitas that it doesn't have, and some sort of meaning and depth that it doesn't have.
Yeah, you're right. But I think it's fine. They just overdo it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fine. They need to put some kind of emotional depth in there somewhere, and if that's how they want to do it, then fine. But...
I don't know that they do, because I mean, there certainly isn't any emotional depth in the film. There's only an attempt at it. So,
which one? The fourth?
All
one?
of them.
Any of them? Yeah.
Plus, like, if you think in terms of its family. Like, if Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel's character, is the daddy of the family, then, you know, one of them's actually his sister, and the other one's dating his sister. That's kind of like a brother-in-law. But then the other two are like friends of that guy who he's never really met.
Yeah, it's like the fucking Manson family. It's not a real family.
So it's like his brother-in-law's like alcoholic mates who come round for parties.
And Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like someone else he knows and his girlfriend who was on the bad guy's team trying to kill him at one point.
Though this isn't the fifth film, it's the fifth film where Tyrese and Ludacris return from the second film.
Yeah.
So the fifth one, are we moving on to it?
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, because this is when it starts to get good. Finally.
Well, I was going to say the fifth one was noticeably better. Like, really noticeably better than all the four that had come before it. And I know everyone's sort of been getting on at me to watch these films for years and going, oh no, they get good. And, I mean, they don't get good. They get less shit.
They get better.
They get less shit.
No, come now. They get good. These are good action films.
They are so far from being good films, but...
no, good action films.
Well, I take umbrage with the idea that action is a lesser genre, Calvin.
Oh, for God's sake.
So the fifth film, it's just plodding along. Suddenly, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson turns up. He brings it to life. Yes. And then, shortly after that, it turns into a heist film. And it only happens halfway through. But that's one of my, we talked about this before, like the ticking the personal favourite boxes. That's one of mine where you have to gather the team for the heist.
Oh, I do like that, yeah. I mean, it's better when it's characters that I like, but...
It's better, yeah. Because in Fast 5, it was very much just like, oh, these are all the guys we've had in the previous ones, and then suddenly they fit these characters that they didn't fit before.
I couldn't even remember who most of them were, which didn't help as well.
Yeah.
Roles that aren't even like necessary for the heist. They're like, what is it they say about Tyrese? We need someone who can talk the talk or something. And at one point, he has to attempt to romance.
Well, yeah, he's the con man, isn't he? He's like the decoy guy.
But it's like his job is like to deliver that package or something. And it's like, well, any of them could have bloody done that. It's like,
but this is something they like in the later films where he's going like, this is the best team in the world, and all that. It's like, it's not. It's just your mates and people you grew up with, like, and they're into cars. Yeah. It's like, what? you haven't scoured the world for this.
Well, that's it. It's either the best team in the world or family is important. You can't have it both ways, mate.
But also I liked, and this must have worked for you, Sol, how Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had to have a goatee so that he looked like an evil Vin Diesel, so you could tell him apart.
Alan, which one out of Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson is it that you think is like? There is one of them that you do have quite a soft spot for outside of this franchise.
Oh, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Yeah, definitely. I love him.
Right,
I think he's great. I think he does everything he ever does. He does with his tongue firmly in his cheek.
Yes. Dwayne Johnson's like glistening muscles. Johnson. his glistening muscles through these films is like I've recently moved into a new flat and I've been assembling a lot of flat pack furniture, and if I could find a credenza in just that right shade and sheen, I'd be very, very happy. His arms are the most amazing thing I've ever seen. But at the end of it, this one came down to they were taking money from a criminal kingpin, weren't they? That was the plot.
Yeah.
Right, because they're all super
but it
rich.
was also revenge for something. But this is something else that they just have to keep hammering home in these things. That hey, they might be thieves and occasionally murder people, but they're good guys, all right? And family, all right? They love their mum, and this is classic cases because they're robbing this drug dealer of, his entire fortune. But yeah, he's a drug dealer, and they're going to rob it, and they're not going to give it to the poor, but they're taking him away from the poor. But he's actually helping the poor with his drug money. So anyway, they're the good guys, all right?
They love having these drug crime lord kingpins and that. Never actually see any drugs on screen at any point. No one ever does any cocaine or weed.
Well, you don't want to.
Well, not on screen.
You don't get high on your own supply, Calvin. It's rule 1.
But in this culture, you would think, and maybe I'm being very offensive to people from that culture to imply that they're all like doing cocaine off their like girlfriends' bottoms in the backs of their cars. But
what people are we talking about? What culture? Hollywood.
Well, this racing, underground racing culture.
So, which one of the cast do you think was doing the most cocaine behind the scenes?
I think it could be Jordana Brewster, just because she gets given nothing to do, really. She gets to drive a car a bit in the 4th one, but in the 5th one, she is very much like, oh, well, you've had a baby now, you're not quite the star we wish you were, and we've kind of got to keep you in this cast, because if Paul Walker's character leaves you, he might look like a bad person, so you can stay behind a laptop and, like, be on the wire with people being like, oh, the cops are on your tail, or whatever. Got to do something to keep yourself happy. We're just trying to like get a bit of beef going with an actor and implying that they do a lot of cocaine.
All right, well I'll say Gal Gadot because I reckon she does it to keep the figure.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
Just because she's going to be a big star now in Wonder Woman, so that's probably the one that we want to upset the most. So yeah, I reckon she was high. You know what? I reckon. What I've heard is Wonder Woman's going to be shit because she was just drugged out on set when they were filming it. And they've had to edit around.
It's like an Al Pacino film.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to number 6?
Yes, let's. This is the London one.
Now this is probably my favourite of the franchise.
Yes, likewise.
I still don't think this is a very good film at all. This, like I said,
oh, what?
This for me, this one's a 4 out of 10. I think that's fair.
This is the film that made me decide that I'm not going to resell the box set that I bought for the purpose of this podcast to watch the film. I really like this film. I think it's... part of it is London, and obviously being in England, it's nice to see.
I would have got more out of that if it wasn't so obviously shot elsewhere. Like, it's so obviously not London. It doesn't feel anything like... A lot of it was
in London. No, they shut down Piccadilly Circus to film some of these race sequences. Like, Did they?
I thought they shot it in... I thought they shot a few bits on Pinewoods lot or something. There's like a recreation of Piccadilly, isn't there? My understanding is they shot a few bits on a recreation of famous bits of London, but the vast majority of the film was shot on an island. What is it? In Greece? One of the Greek islands? Where was it shot?
Really?
Oh, let me look it up. It was shot...
No, I saw some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. They, like, shut down Piccadilly Circus and had cars, like, sweeping through.
Are you sure it was the real Piccadilly Circus and not just Pinewood?
Yes. Yes.
It would be very easy to recreate Piccadilly Circus on a set, wouldn't it?
Right, I'm looking at
just a few buildings, really.
I'm looking at the... Well, at first I thought it must have been CG, and then when I saw...
Shepperton.
Yeah,
Yeah, it says they had I'm just reading, they had a Piccadilly Circus mock-up at Shepperton Studios that they shot that on.
Fast and the Furious 6 became only the third production to be allowed to film in Piccadilly Circus.
Huh. Maybe they did a bit of both. My understanding is they were originally going to film most of it in England, but then our laws and regulations said, no, you can't drive a tank down the street. What are you talking about? So they shot most of it in the Canary Islands.
Which explains why there's this really awkward moment at the end of the London sequences where they're like, oh no, we need to go to Spain immediately. And then as soon as they get there, there's an action sequence where there's this massive tank because, they had all the pre-visualization stuff done and everything for how the tank was going to move through the streets of London. And then you could tell the director was quite pissed off because he was sort of saying, like, so you come to the Canary Islands and you have wonderful officials who will let you do anything on their highways and blow buildings up and bridges and things like that. And it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, London's a bit different to like a highway. But that's it.
It just, I don't know. None of it feels like London to me. I know there's obviously a few bits of actual footage there, but the whole film just feels really warm. It feels like it's all been shot in the Canary Islands. It feels like.
You know what really made it feel like home to me? There's a bit where Han is eating a packet of Seabrook crisps. And I was like, oh my god, yes.
Now, isn't it disappointing that there's no proper sequence on the tube where they're like driving cars through the tube, through the London Underground, like Mario Kart style again? It just seems like such a missed opportunity to do something there, because they obviously do have a sequence in the tube, but it's all on foot.
Well, let me just say, I didn't like this film. It was one of my least favourite of the lot, and I think that is partly because it is set in London, and that just highlighted for me like how little realism there is. It's like you put something in the favelas in Rio, and I can go with it. Like they all live in poverty and they're all drug dealers, whatever. It doesn't bother me. But you put this in London, and like nobody acts how they would really act, and nothing happens like it really happens.
There's this massive drag race going on in like central London in the middle of the night, and it's somehow it's just like fuck off. Like you'd have police snipers on you within like 2 minutes. Like not to mention the crowds of just people that would be there, like who aren't drag racers. The people, you wouldn't be able to move the car for pedestrians. You can't move quicker than.
That's what I thought. I was like, these cars are going over 12 miles an hour in London. What's going on? But the at one point the police are chasing them, and the armed police, like with a submachine gun or something, leans out of the passenger side of the car to fire off randomly at the car. Like that would never happen. Not even remotely none of those three elements would happen. And
I see where you're coming from again, because these films, they're just not quite pitched enough tongue-in-cheek for me. Like, if there was a bit more humour and it was a bit more absurd, I would be all for it, but they're just not quite...
Yeah, like, if you have a fight scene in the tube and then someone, like, excuse me, like, I've got to get this train, like, just throw in a couple of gags, and it just sort of dispel the whole kind of sincerity.
That's it. It all just feels a bit too sincere, and it just doesn't quite work as a result.
I disagree. I think when you've got Dwayne Johnson and Ludacris and Tyrese,
Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Oh God! All right. No, he's only Dwayne Johnson at this stage.
He's Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
I think when you've got those three in it, I think they bring all three of them together, a tongue-in-cheekness and a sense of levity.
Yeah, that's it. They do, and it just needed more of it.
No more than any sincere action movie. There's always a few quips in a sincere... Well, normally there's a few quips in an action movie. And what I'm talking about is, it needs to be just a bit more absurd, just in general, like taking the piss out of itself for it to work for me.
I mean,
it needs to be more like Crank, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say, you want something like Crank, whereas this just isn't going to go that far. Like, this goes about as absurd as you can without going in Crank level. Like, I mean, then they have this massive tank, and they're just defying the laws of physics with people like jumping off, and like, there's a point where Michelle Rodriguez is on the tank, and then the tank hits an anchor, and then she goes flying through the air, and then Vin Diesel crashes his car and goes flying through the air to grab her midair and then bring her down on the other side. It is ridiculous action.
But that's the point. It's ridiculous, but it's not knowingly ridiculous. It's like it's presenting this as serious.
Yeah.
But it is ridiculous. If it presents it as ridiculous, then it's all right.
That's it. If it was presented as kind of Looney Tunes nonsense, I'd be up for it. But it is presented as, hey, cool, real, look, action. And the other thing is it's so stop-start. There's a few sequences in the later films where I do think, oh, this is great, this is cool. But then 5 minutes later and it's done, and it's just boring until like another scene about 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, and it's just, it really frustrates me. You know what the main reason is? I've just realised why it doesn't feel authentically like London to me, is that they stick to their guns and stick a load of women just wearing like nothing, dancing around.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, they'd be freezing. You wouldn't wear that out at night in London like that. They're dancing around like it's, Spain or something.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, you set something in Miami, and my imagination of what Miami is based on Bad Boys 2 is, has a certain idea, and I can go with it. But you put it in London, it's like, well, that doesn't happen, does it? So...
They do love that particular shot, don't they? It's in every film. There's always like two girls walking together with like skimpy undies on, and the camera's like underneath them looking up the arses.
Practically.
It really starts to bug me by the last few films, because you just think like, come on, you've brought this franchise a long way now. Can we not let go of this? What is this adding to the proceedings?
I completely agree.
When does Jason Statham get introduced to the franchise? I've forgotten which one. Is he in the sixth
very
one?
End of the...
in London.
He's at the very end of the sixth one, when they finally tie it back to when we saw Han die in the third film. It was apparently just a random car collision, but then the end credits for the sixth film reveal that it's actually Jason Statham who was killing Han.
Oh yeah, it's this really weird like Marvel movie end nugget with Jason Statham appearing. But you just think like, who the fuck? Like, I know it's Jason Statham, but like,
do you know how it ended up being Jason Statham? Because Vin Diesel talks about one of the bonus features. He like put on his Facebook. He said like, he put it out to his fans like, who do you think I should fight in the next Fast and Furious film? And everyone was, and he said, and the name that kept coming up was Jason Statham. So we thought, well, gotta get him in then. And that's basically how he ended up being in this.
Oh, yeah, that's how Sonic ended up in Smash Brothers. So like, fair play.
Should we talk about the seventh one?
I felt like it was just kind of...
I didn't like it.
Obviously massively better than the earlier films still, but it felt like just more of the same and a step back from the sixth one to me.
I agree. With the notable exception of the Paul Walker situation, which I think probably gave the movie more sentiment and heart than it would have had.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of the reviews do praise it for a wonderful send-off to Paul Walker, because obviously, for those who don't know, but I think everyone does know, Paul Walker died halfway during filming in a car crash, oddly enough.
Quite early on in filming as well.
Yeah, they hadn't filmed that much. And they had to take a hiatus for a few months and rewrite the script, and they decided to continue.
And I mean, I will say, watching it and knowing that, you don't think anything. He's in it all the way through. And they used lots of trickery and stuff. They got away with it.
Yeah, I completely forgot it even happened until who is it? The Rock? Yeah, at the end of the film. Is it The Rock or is it Vin Diesel?
It's Vin Diesel.
At the very end.
That's his bro.
All right. I completely forgot until at the end of the film when Vin Diesel's driving along, and then this car pulls up alongside, and he turns around, and then this like video game character monstrosity turns to him.
See, it's interesting that you point out the end shot, because there are actually, I went and looked at this, there are 350 digital shots of him in the film, all throughout the film, and oddly enough, the one that stuck out to me the most, I could tell that there were a few scenes where it was just because I was looking up on Wikipedia and sort of seeing, okay, so if they filmed that and then they couldn't have filmed that, so that was obviously, they got his brother to act as his double, his brothers, and then Weta would like CG Paul Walker's face on it. There's a scene where they're all stood, it's just before the big sequence in LA towards the end, and they're all stood in a line and talking, and there's just one point where he turns and looks, and you can just tell that, yeah, that is a CGI creation. But you know that sequence in Dubai when the car is crashing through the 3 different buildings, that's entirely all CG Paul Walker.
Well, the whole scene is CG. The cars and buildings are fake as well.
I really like that scene.
What?
With the cars jumping out of buildings.
I thought it was great.
I thought that was the best bit.
I hated it.
One of the best moments in the
I thought
franchise.
it was the worst moment in the whole franchise.
What?
Why? That's like the only point where the film truly embraces the level of absurdity that I've been craving throughout the entire franchise.
But like what I like about the later films around the early ones are that it really embraces practical stunts, and then it does something like that which completely loses it.
Yeah,
and I think that's a huge part of the appeal. I think the reason people like this is because it's like, yeah, those cars are really being flipped around and smashed up, and you can tell it's real and it looks cool.
Guess so.
People like that, and so that stunt just did not play for me at all. And because it just felt completely unrealistic. If you'd got a building and driven a car between the buildings, I would have been impressed.
But so much of the action in all of the better ones, all of the back end ones, is obviously fake, though. That bit at the start, it is. That. I mean, obviously there's lots of actual driving of cars going on, but I expect there was a lot of actual driving of the car inside the building, ramming into, like, statues and things.
I think the 7th one was a clear differentiation from the 5th and 6th to back to computer generated stuff.
So one of the most memorable bits, like I say, that opening of whichever one it was, where the guy with the iguana gets his petrol stolen, that heist. Like, there's the bit where the big fiery tankard thing is bouncing towards the road, and then they have to stop and rev the car up to go underneath it, and it's like a video game. It's so far fake, and like the whole thing with that aeroplane that you're on about, and I don't know, all the big action set pieces I can remember are heavily CGI'd. Like, I know they're driving real cars and mixing that in there, but I mean, you couldn't do that with a car jumping out of one skyscraper into another. That's beyond the realms of
exactly.
And I think it's a cool idea. It's a kind of level of absurd spectacle that, like, I just think, well, yeah, fair enough. You know, I get where you're coming from, but
I want to take a step back because we were still talking about Paul Walker, and in terms of that kind of little epilogue they do, the tribute to him at the end. And I was genuinely quite touched. It felt really genuine. Like, these are guys who've been working together for years. And you do get the impression that they're friends behind the scenes as well, because they all keep coming back. It was quite a nice tribute. You kind of see him going off with his wife and child, and they're just sort of like leaving, and they're kind of saying, and Vin Diesel says, "Oh, it's never goodbye." Kind of, it was nice, and I liked that bit. And then it did this bit where he had this little voiceover where he's giving this little speech. Vin Diesel is. And it seemed very personal, and it felt a bit more like Vin Diesel rather than the character. And I thought, okay, that's pushing it a bit. You're breaking the wall here. And then they did this montage of clips from earlier films. I was like, right, you've lost me. It went too far because it went out. It broke from the film, from the characters. And fair enough, I understand why they would do that. But from an audience point of view, I don't know them. I don't care about them. So it was just a nice little tribute that went too far for me.
But I would say I was genuinely welling up at what I never thought I'd
I was genuinely touched. It was
Paul
nice.
Walker, but
it was great.
But I think we can all agree that I think we've all cited a shot or two that we knew that it was a CG Paul Walker. But I think we can all agree that it's pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think
the effects.
Right. Okay, at the risk of being an arsehole about this, Paul Walker kind of died how he lived, and I think that's okay. And I think it's kind of there's a certain poetic structure of life about that. I would have preferred it if they'd killed Paul Walker's character in a car accident in the film.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that kind of could be insensitive, and I understand why they didn't do it.
But it would also be a firm reminder for the audience that this sort of behaviour isn't to be condoned, and that it does come with risks and dangers, and it would be a stark reminder that don't go driving like a lunatic.
The fact that they do kill off characters. They kill off Han. They kill off Giselle. Is that her name? Or whoever she is.
Yes, Gal Gadot.
They kill off a little kid in the first film as well. It might not have worked thematically because they'd already had the kind of death and that spurs us on kind of thing. But because he died, obviously it would force their hand. I just feel like it would have been a more thematically justified, slightly more emotionally satisfying ending. It would have been sad and tragic, but I think that's all right sometimes. Like, in life, sometimes is sad and tragic. So stories of life and film can be as well.
And it's not as if the film wouldn't have played it as sad and tragic.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure they'd have the characters going to his funeral as like the final part, and they'd probably have their little sad song and everything. I'm sure it would have played just fine. Like you say, it might have felt a bit iffy, but
that's it. Because he had actually died, it might have just seemed insensitive. But I think if they'd done it because they were close and they were his friends, the filmmakers, as in, and Vin Diesel and all that, if they felt that it was okay, then it would have been all right, you know. But I guess nobody wants to face it, do they? That's fair enough. And also, surely a fitting tribute to family and to that we come together and make these films together would be to not make any more. Like, I understand why they're halfway through a film and they're all contractually obliged and they create a nice fitting tribute, but then just to come back and do another one
because it made $1.5 billion. That's why.
No, I understand why the studio does it. The heartless, faceless studio. Yeah, but if we're buying into, and I certainly buy into that, there's this genuine relationship, certainly between the likes of Vin Diesel, maybe your Tyrese Gibson or whatever, then why have they gone, yeah, we'll do another one without him, that's all right? And surely, like, if what you've done for the last 10 years, every 2 years you come together and spend 6 months together with your friends making a film, then to go back and one of them's dead, and that's this huge hole there, surely that is going to be a shit experience, making that film.
I don't know. There's a lot of them on there, aren't there?
I mean, your point is, it's only Paul Walker.
My point is that they'll probably be a bit sad the first day, and then they'll kind of...
Okay, well, if Calvin died, how long do you think it would be before we replaced him with someone else? Do you think we'd have a week off?
Maybe take...
We'd finish the week with, like, voice clips from other episodes.
Well, let's see. We'd probably have like maybe 2 or 3 episodes recorded at that point. So we'd put those out. We'd probably put a little like memoriam type thing at the end of the episode or something. And then we'd put out the clip show of all the unused bits that have been cut, and then we might not even miss a week because then we've had about a month there to get someone else on board. So then we could just bring in some other more successful YouTuber with a whole load of new listeners.
I think I'm more affronted that you compared me to Paul Walker.
You're the Paul Walker, Calvin.
Like, I'm the Paul Walker of this podcast.
See, Calvin, you want to be the Michelle Rodriguez, but you're the Jordana Brewster.
That hurts. That really hurts. I've always thought of myself as more of a Tyrese myself.
Which one am I, Alan?
You're Vin Diesel or Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I don't know which one.
Oh no, I really don't want to go bald.
Well, then who does that make you? Are you ludicrous?
I'm Jason Statham.
Okay, then should we talk about Jason Statham? Because obviously he's a big new component of Furious.
Yeah, he's by the standard of these films, he's fantastic. Like, such an injection of something that I'm happy to watch.
He just does the same thing he does in The Transporter and...
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's the same in everything.
But when he's on screen, I can pretend that I'm actually watching Crank, and that makes me happy. The opening sequence...
nowhere near as funny as Crank.
No, I know, and but the opening sequence, like the very first scene of the 7th film, was pretty cool, and it would have, if they took all of the stupid sped up footage and just played that scene in like real time, it would have been great. I don't know why they feel the need to just speed shit up. It really took away from it. You see him walk into the lift, and the camera goes round behind his head, and it goes whoosh, and like speeds up to get behind his head quicker, because God forbid we wait 3 seconds and take in the fact that he's like shooting people and blowing stuff up as he goes. It would have played so much better in real time, but it was still quite a cool sequence, and it set this character up as like the right level of cartoonish, silly action that I really think these films should all be at, and like the entire runtime should be at.
I know what you mean. It's like it's the same when near the end where Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like, first of all crashes an ambulance into a plane, like a drone, and then rips off the mounted gun on it and starts using it as a handheld gun. It's just like cartoonish, like Rainier Wolfcastle moment.
Yeah.
No, my favourite moment in the whole film is when he's got this like cast on his arm for much of the film. He's like bedridden for a lot of it, and then when he sees that shit's going down outside his window, he like just flexes his muscles and breaks the cast and then rips it off. I love it.
And he also says that when we were introduced to him, it says like he's broken his leg and his collarbone. And then he goes in and he's got a pot on his arm. Like, that's not your collarbone. Like, it's not related to it.
I think Jason Statham makes up for the lack of Dwayne Johnson in this film. Like, he's only really in it at the beginning and the end.
Not for me.
And I think there's... I mean, I've not seen a huge deal of his films, but I can't take him remotely seriously. I feel like whenever Jason Statham is acting or on screen, I feel like he's doing a joke. And I don't know if that's just because I like the Crank film so much, but it really feels like he's kind of... There's something in his eyes when he's trying to be kind of like a bit hard and like... I mean, I don't know, there's that scene where they find him on the computer and he's just sort of like, you know, yeah, I'm on your computer, what about it? And it's just... I don't know, maybe it is meant to be like genuinely cool and genuinely like almost a bit threatening, but the way it plays is just funny to me. It's like this guy's fucking with this guy and he thinks it's funny. It's like they're
playing with these cliches of the sort of silent assassin kind of thing, and it doesn't work with the film because it's just the film itself isn't kind of funny enough to get away with it.
Yeah.
Like when they finally storm him near the end and he's just sat there like drinking a glass of wine and eating his dinner, and then like 400 people descend on him and then it turns out he's got an army behind him or something.
But for me, that's an issue with the rest of the film rather than the Jason Statham scenes. Like the rest of the film should fall in line with what he's doing.
I loved in the bonus features, Jason Statham was talking about his character and like what he wanted to bring to the role and stuff. And it's like, you do the exact same thing in everything I've ever seen you in. Like, but I've never seen him like talk about his craft before. I like to think that he thinks that he's approaching every character differently when actually it's all just Jason Statham.
What's my motivation?
Kicking some fucking little pussy arse, is it?
We're going back to the Aristocats, so. Is he coming back in the next one?
Yes. And bizarrely, Helen Mirren is coming in to play his mother.
Fantastic. Oh, that's amazing.
So, also in this film, we get introduced to a couple of the new characters because they seem to be trying to turn this into the Expendables. They put Kurt Russell in it.
Yes.
Now, how did you feel about Kurt Russell's character?
I didn't really enjoy it.
For quite a lot of it, it felt like they were setting him up to be a baddie and like they were going to do the old switcheroo where he's helping them and then he turns on them at the end. And it really felt like that, like they were deliberately setting that up, kind of overdoing it, like with the music and stuff, and then when he gets shot and then it turns out he's not dead. All this stuff. But that never paid off. And then, so was that a deliberate double bluff to kind of trick you or what? And then there was this whole kind of father-son thing with him and Vin Diesel that was kind of going on, and that never really went anywhere either.
Why are people so into Kurt Russell anyway? Like, it seems to be... There's a lot of films he's done now where, like, he is their big star. Oh my god, it's Kurt Russell.
It's because of Snake Plissken, I think, basically.
Okay, right.
I think he's just been in a lot of cult movies, and I think in the like 70s and 80s, he could have been, if he'd been in the right films, he could have been a Harrison Ford. But Harrison Ford had Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and you know he had Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China.
But he seems to be playing like the exact same thing in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming out. He's he's the big star they've got in to play. Like the main character's dad again. Yeah. It's the same sort of father-son mentor character. All right.
I mean, that's what he's doing now, isn't it? It's like Tommy Lee Jones only ever plays that one character now.
I think for this film, I think his lack of development comes down to the fact that they've got a franchise mentality now. So they're just thinking, okay, well, we just introduce you now and then we'll do something with you in the next film. That's the mentality now. It's lesser about making one self-contained story. It's more about franchise building.
Yeah. And also, let's speak about God's Eye, which in the film is a technological apparatus to harness any camera in the world and track people. I mean, there's suspension of disbelief, and then there's just complete insanity. And it just... I don't know. What did you think about it? Are you just happy with that? Did you just go along with it?
I wasn't paying that much attention. It was literally just a MacGuffin thing. I was like, they're just spewing out this techno nonsense and...
Well, no, because it's not. It's not a MacGuffin that they're just chasing something. It's they use it to track people. It can harness any camera. So they find Jason Statham or whoever because he's driving a car past someone who's talking on a phone. And so... they can use the camera phone even though it's not on, but also they can remotely access it retroactively for a camera that wasn't on, and they only know that he's there because the camera has been activated anyway and then registered his facial recognition in the software from every camera in the world. I mean, it's so beyond reality that it becomes ridiculous.
For me, it wasn't particularly worse than the amnesia plot in that earlier one. It is fucking bollocks, but I don't know. These films are full of that shit, you know.
But I don't understand. They don't need to put that in. Like, put some fucking car chases in and a fist fight between Vin Diesel and The Rock or whatever, whoever the latest muscle guy is. And then, like, some cool stunts. It's like, why are you dressing up with this plot that doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Like, just create a nice, simple heist film. I don't really get it. What are they gaining from it?
So, the fate of the Furious. Charlize Theron is in it. Helen Mirren is in it. Jason Statham's coming back, and most of the cast are. Well, yes, it has Charlize Theron taking over all cars in a city or something, which sounds silly. Oh
God, I've just remembered with the trailer, and she can remotely control all the cars in the world. Oh my God.
I think that's fun.
It's a good premise if they really embrace it as much as they like. I don't think it'll be silly enough to work. Like, I don't think it's gonna hit the right beats yet, but
we'll see. They're still going to make more. Obviously, it's going to make shit tons of money, and they're going to make.
Well, yeah, they've greenlit the next three. They're already working on 9 and 10 as we speak. I believe. So they're dated as well. The 10th one is set to come out on the 2nd of April 2021.
So was Vin Diesel given up on his career now then?
Well, got more of a career than Paul Walker, hasn't he?
I mean, you could have said that at any point in the last 42 years and you would have been correct. But, now it seems harsh.
Oh. No, because I didn't want to make that much jokes about that whole situation. I think it's genuinely really sad. I think,
we're talking about nominative determinism when because I've just been doing the Tremors episode, when Sol said that Ron Underwood, the director of Tremors, because his name is Underwood, made a film about things underground. I think Paul Walker is like famous as a driving guy. I think it's just a sense of irony.
Well, I think we've covered everything. Have we ever reviewed a series that none of us could be remotely less interested in?
Resident Evil. Oh no.
No. One of us is normally usually interested.
We came close with the Bourne movies, but
yeah, Bourne movies probably.
No, but I love Resident Evil. Should we get to the pictures, gentlemen? To how we would continue this franchise if it was up to us?
Yeah.
Right. So, Sol, how would you continue Fast and the Furious if you were Vin Diesel?
Well, if I was Vin Diesel, I'd probably just retire and live a happy life with all my money. And I don't know, actually. No, if I was Vin Diesel, I would make this. That my idea is basically Fast and the Furious, the next generation, essentially, because we've got to deal with Paul Walker.
It's called Tokyo Drift, right?
Yeah, but Paul Walker's not in it anymore, so we're going to try and. Can
you call it the next generation with an 8 in it?
Well, that was it. I was wondering if you could help me out with the name. So Fast. Let's call it Far. Let's call it. Let's call it Faster and Furiouser. All right.
That sounds like that should already be a thing, doesn't it?
It does. So there we go. Faster and Furiouser. Hey, and maybe we can get Patrick Stewart in as Jason Statham's dad now with that name.
Oh, are you setting it in the future?
I am.
Okay.
So it is set 30 years in the future.
Patrick Stewart is playing Jason Statham. He'll be playing Jason Statham because it's 30 years in the future.
Basically, we're following. Let's say Vin Diesel's kid. I want to kind of address the Paul Walker thing a little bit. So we're gonna
so you can recast Brian O'Connor.
That's a point. No, I think basically this kid's estranged from his dad. Like all their kids have grown up and like have shunned the drag racing car lifestyle. So he's sort of shunned this lifestyle and he just leads a normal life for the most part. I want, for the beginning of the film, I just want a whole load of sequences of, like, you know, he's going to the shops to pick up some food and stuff, but he's just driving normally, but it's shot and directed like a Fast and the Furious action sequence. By the way, I've put as much thought and effort into writing this out as I think they did with the actual films. I want it to be authentic, so it's scrawled on a napkin level of writing. So I think he's an architect because I'm not an architect. He's an archaeologist because I want to go down the.
Oh, God.
I think he's an archaeologist because I want to go down the Indiana Jones route a bit with it.
He's excavating like really old cars or something?
Why not?
Oh, okay.
Chariots and things, but he has to drive cars to get to the sites, and so there's a MacGuffin. And we can dust off one of the old Indiana Jones scripts or even like National Treasure 3 or something for this. Because they're heist movies as well, so that might work. Just dust off one of these scripts that hasn't been made yet. Put some more cars into it. And so there's a vaguely like magical, mythical MacGuffin that everyone's after. And there's loads of action with that. I've not really thought it through. But basically what I'm building to with this is, if you think Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade style, I want it to culminate with the kid having to go and find his estranged father in the old folks' home, and it turns out that there's still this like weird car heist MacGuffin shit going on with the old Vin Diesel and the old Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. A new one is villainous that I'm adding in. It's kind of like you know that Simpsons episode with the flying hellfish. You can think some sort of that sort of dynamic. So we've got Vin Diesel, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in like old man makeup now. They're playing old men. They're playing like 80-year-old versions of their characters.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be so much better at that than Vin Diesel. Because Vin Diesel will be exactly the same, but with some makeup on his face. Where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be like, he'll be on a stroller, on like one of those like Zimmer frames, and then like he'll smash it over someone's head.
But basically, what we're building to is the majority of the film's running time, which is the final action sequence, which is going to be on old person mobility scooters. So it's going to be Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson chasing the villain, trying to get away with the MacGuffin. Now the villain's going to be
with
someone
NOS on the back of it.
Yeah. But it's all at about 15 miles an hour tops, and there's loads of like very low stakes, action happening. Like there's some people carrying a pane of glass across the road, and they just sort of they just carry it across the road, and there's no.
What about if the old Michelle Rodriguez is just sort of like wandering across the street, and they see her like 40 yards away, like, get out of the way, and she's like trying to get out of the way as quickly as possible. She can't move.
But yeah, they're chasing the villain who's another old person in the home. So this is a new character. I think they could be played by John Lithgow. I think he'd be quite good. But it could be anyone, but put him in there. We'll get Patrick Stewart in as Jason Statham as well. I like that. So it's just a big action.
I think if you're going to do that, you need to have other actors in as like the old Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and the old Vin Diesel.
All right, let's do this then. Right, let me think. Casting.
I think Jerry Stiller as the old Vin Diesel.
Okay.
Is Jerry Stiller still alive? I'm not even sure.
Barely.
What about as the old Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Well, this is I'm struggling here because
Sylvester Stallone with a shaved head.
Can we get Arnold Schwarzenegger in somewhere? if we are going down the Expendables route, I know he had his little cameo, didn't he?
Who is the old version of these big muscle guys?
What's that bodybuilder guy he's got a lisp, like a really strong lisp, and he's known for like strongman?
Mike Tyson?
No, Jack LaLanne.
Oh right, yeah.
I reckon
he's dead.
He died 6 years ago. Damn it. Well, he was an old muscly man. That's the only one I can think of. Anyway, yeah, the film just culminates in like a 45-minute plus chase sequence. It's got to be that long because they're only going at about 15 miles an hour, and so it's going to take them a while to like get from one side of the city to the other. And you know, I think that'd be good.
How long do the batteries last on those things?
Oh, I don't know. Well, the whole it doesn't all have to be on that. I want them to have to do a few jumps and stuff, and then they, you know, at one point, one of them's going to fall over or something. So then they have to get off and hobble away on like a Zimmer frame. I'd like it if at one point one of them, like, say they're running down some stairs or something. If one of them sort of falls and then says, "I've fallen and I can't get up." Basically, I just want a Fast and the Furious movie as it would be if they were all really old. You know, the kids there, the younger one, just to kind of, you know, point them in the right direction whenever they kind of forget what they were doing or something like that. I want us to have the sequence where the obligatory sequence halfway through the film where there's just a load of scantily clad women dancing and then the characters kind of, you know, milling around with these hot young women, young and what have you, but then they're all old leching at these young women. And anyway, that's my very poorly thought through concept. I just want to see them as old men.
But if it's set 13 years in the future, wouldn't they have flying cars by then? In fact, they'll all be driven by like Google by that point. Won't they?
That is a point, actually. Yeah, there'll be a load of self-driving cars on the road. Well, that could be the plot. Then they have to like hack the self-driving cars to let.
That's what the young one's for, to do the hacking.
Yeah. Well, no, that can be why they have to go and get Jason Statham back in. They pull him in.
He's not the hacker.
Oh no.
That's ludicrous.
Right, they have to find Ludacris. They have to track him down.
This Ludacris,
played by Morgan Freeman.
That'd work, actually.
Yeah, he'd probably do it. Oh, you could have Samuel L. Jackson as Tyrese Gibson. Boom.
Oh, that would be perfect.
I mean, this is the thing, Alan. We can have your team assembling sequence, but they're all really old, and we get to find out what happened to them over the last 30 years. But like I say, more than anything, I just want to move away from glamorizing the silly, dangerous driving. So Calvin, how would you sequel up this mother?
Well, for my eighth installment, we're going to change genre again, much like how the fifth film thought, fuck it, we're just going to be an action film from now on. My version of the eighth film is going to say, fuck it, we're going to do supernatural horror.
Sorry, I've changed my mind about how my one's going to work. I've decided that I want it to be I want it to be roughly the same thing, but it's going to be like hidden camera, like Borat and Bad Grandpa. You know, the Jackass Dirty Grandpa or whatever it's called. And it's just going to be Vin Diesel and The Rock in old man makeup driving their mobility scooters like idiots around like LA or whatever, just like causing havoc for people, like trying to start drag races with other old people and just stuff like that. Just send them out to improv, see what they come back with, and edit. See,
that's the thing, right? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would do that, and he'd get some good material. Vin Diesel probably wouldn't do it and wouldn't be good at it if he tried. So,
well, maybe he would if he knew he was going to be upstaged by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson by not doing it. So
he's been upstaged by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in at least 4 films I've seen.
Anyway, sorry, Calvin.
That's quite remarkable to say he's only in 3.
Exactly. So Calvin, start again.
So my pitch is going to shift genre again, and we're going to do supernatural horror.
Brilliant.
Given that James Wan
get
was
James
the
Wan
director
into
of the last. Yep, we'll keep him on.
Ghost car?
Don't get too ahead of me. We're going to open the film in a scrapyard where we find Hector. You might not remember Hector, but do you remember in the 7th film when at the beginning Michelle Rodriguez is in that drag race and then she punches a guy in the crowd and then runs away?
No.
Okay, well,
but Hector's from the first film, right? He's the Latino. I'm the Latino guy.
Yes, and he comes back for a cameo in the 7th film. So we're bringing him back. And his day job is crushing cars into cubes. He's one of those people who does that in the junkyard that you see in films. So he's working overtime, and it's a late shift at the yard, and he just wants to get back to drag racing.
A lot of cars need crushing today. Punch out a little late.
He's crushing all the cars when his car crushing machine thing suddenly fails just as it is about to crush one of the cars that Vin Diesel was seen using in one of the previous films. Because something that did occur to me throughout this whole film series is that I honestly thought that everyone was going to have like one special car that is their car, their trademark vehicle. It doesn't really work that way, does it?
It's like the cars,
the cars are very expendable. Oh, yeah. But there isn't, like, one car. There's not his, like, you know, he doesn't have, Betty's been with me for years. Or
old Betty. I must admit, like, we haven't talked about the cars at all, have we? And that's because I don't know anything about cars and I've no interest in them whatsoever. So I haven't brought it up.
I did pick up on that, though. You're right, Calvin. It's you know what it's like? I'm playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at the moment, and they've introduced this... Yeah. But they've introduced this weird mechanic where the weapons break, and they break really quickly, and so in previous games you would obtain a weapon or a sword or something, and it would be... You'd be like, yeah, it's my thing, I've worked hard to get it. In this game, you're constantly picking up new swords and clubs and knives and things, and just then they break 10 seconds later, so they're just completely disposable, and it's very different. But that's kind of how they treat the cars in these films. It's weird because you would expect from the outset, you would expect them to treat the cars like, you know, calling them lady and, you know, hey, keep your hands off lady, she's just been cleaned and stuff like that, and scenes where they get really sad because one of the cars has been, you know, is now a write-off and they can't salvage it. And
that's what I was expecting, and there's not really much of that.
I've just looked up the actor who plays Hector, by the way. Guys, guess how many different credits he has for characters with the name Hector.
I'm going to say 5.
I would say 13.
Including Fast and the Furious. Calvin is slightly closer. He's played 7 different Hectors.
Oh, wow.
So is Hector like a Latin gangster name? I guess it must be.
Yeah. You should know, Sol. You're the Mexican expert.
So, Hector is crushing cars, and then he sees the one that Vin Diesel was driving one of the previous films, but the crusher suddenly stops working. Why, this is strange, says Hector as he gets down to investigate.
Yo, this is strange, Jesse.
he walks over
Do
to
the
the
accent.
car. He walks over to the car.
It's all right. We've got Sol here. Protect us.
He's walking over to the car. It's all very silent and, building up tension. He gets to the car. He runs his hand across its hood, which bursts open. But it's all right because it's just a little raccoon. Nothing to worry about. Oh no, now the car's rearing up behind Hector. He hears the creaking and he turns and he screams and we smash cut and now he is tied down on the car crushing machine with the car behind the controls, who is slowly crushing Hector to death. Now we have the opening credits and the title appears, The Fast and the Spookiest. So obviously, word gets out about Hector's death, which brings back Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, Michelle Rodriguez, The Rock, Tyrese Gibson, and Ludacris to attend the funeral. I also want to bring back Suki, who's a character from Fast and the Furious 2, just because I like her. She had that nice pink car.
She was a very popular character.
Yeah. Now, this is when a new government official character shows up, and I'd like him to be played by Christopher Lloyd. Now, he says that he's been investigating supernatural occurrences in the area and has found a large deposit of ghost plasma or something in the car yard, and he wants Vin and the gang to investigate because they know a lot about cars and stuff. There's umming and ahhing, but when Paul Walker disappears, the team, up to this point, we've just got Paul Walker's brother back and put his face on the body. That's how we've done this. But the suit, when he disappears.
Well, wait, can you write it in that he's had an accident and so he wears bandages on his face, and then when they take them off, he just looks slightly different. Yes, he had to have corrective plastic surgery. Now he looks like Sam Worthington.
Vin and his team suit up with ghost hunting equipment and stuff and venture into the scrapyard, which, for the purpose of this story, is about 10 square miles and surrounded by a big wall so that the characters can't escape easily, and it's a big maze. Now, we have lots of spooky happenings and that going on as the gang investigate. We have some banter. We can have Tyrese cracking wise and The Rock giving him like withering looks and stuff. And
wait a minute, is Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris scared of the ghosts?
Oh yes, they can be. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Can they
like
ghosts?
Can one of them have like a big Great Dane that he now just goes everywhere with?
Oh.
And when they run away, their legs just spin on the spot for about 5 seconds.
But he's always really hungry, and he's just sort of like, they're always like, oh, where's Tyrese gone? And then they turn around and he's like in the fridge making a sandwich that's like 2 feet tall, just stacking slices of cheese and olives and.
I'm amazed I've never had anyone like cook a steak on their engine. Like I've seen YouTube videos of that. So now, in the story, Jordana Brewster is separated from the group. She's obviously the most emotionally invested in trying to find where Brian is. But then she starts being chased by driverless cars, and it's all very scary and tense, and she's cornered, no way out, when suddenly another car bursts over a wall and fends off the other 2 cars. Jordana Brewster is, of course, upset by the accident and freaks out, but the car begins to comfort her, and she looks deep into its headlights. Brian, is that you? So, to facilitate Paul Walker's death, we want to keep the character going, so we're going to have his spirit possess a car.
Once they've established that this has happened, can you have like a theme tune play and it just transitions into a sitcom? Like my brother the car, and you can have Paul Walker's brother. I don't know. I like talking cars as a.
Oh no, he's not talking. He's not talking. So we don't actually need to replicate. We're just keeping his spirit alive. We're not actually getting a performance.
But
anyway,
does it kind of communicate? So it'll kind of go.
Oh yes.
It'll like honk its horn and they'll kind of emote with the eye, the lights coming on and off. And, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Always angry.
So, so Jordana
And then
brings...
can they have a scene where Jordana Brewster, like, she takes off her top or something, and it goes, ha ha.
Can we have a scene where they're driving and the car like backfires, and then they look at each other and one of them, like Tyrese or someone goes, "It wasn't me."
Oh, definitely. So Jordana reports back to the rest of the group, and everyone is stunned, and Christopher Lloyd does some experiments, and sure enough, cars around the scrapyard are coming to life. One of them killed Brian, who transferred his soul into one. But why and how all these cars are becoming sentient? But why? Why, Vin asks, why is this happening? And Christopher Lloyd can't really explain it. And that's when the ghost car leader who killed Hector at the beginning appears. And there's another chase with the gang all hopping in the Paul Walker car. And Vin recognizes the car. "Hey, I drove that vehicle in 2001, he cries. Michelle Rodriguez notices a different car which joins the chase and says, "Oh, I drove that one in 2009. Sure enough, the gang all realise that it's the ghosts of their former cars which have come back for revenge after years of being carelessly thrown away one after the other with never any great deal of investment shown at all. They're gambled away, they're blown into cinders in the streets, etc. So, after the chase, we have the gang separate, and we have some slow, tense scenes in which a couple of characters are killed off. Suki is one of them, and I'm thinking the other one is Ludacris, so that Tyrese can get really upset about it and hold his, dying friend in his arms, and I'm sure it'd be, that, he could ad-lib and make it funny, I'm sure.
Can we bring back every character that's died in the franchise as a car? So,
I think that would be
the guy from Tokyo Drift and yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Can we have a bit where Vin Diesel is inside the Paul Walker car and just gently strokes the dashboard and goes, "I knew I'd be in you one day."
Definitely. To finish off mine, the whole thing comes to a head in an abandoned theme park, which is conveniently right next to the junkyard. Christopher Lloyd can come up with the device to defeat the ghost cars, which Vin and the regrouped gang attach to Dodgem carts. And then they come out in those and battle the cars and sedate all of them, all except the Paul Walker car, who drives off into the morning sunrise with his wife in his passenger seat. So now Vin, Michelle, and Tyrese are drinking a beer or whatever and having a barbecue as the credits roll. And then we have a post-credits scene where we pick up with Jason Statham in his jail cell. And he starts hearing some banging and screaming, and suddenly the first car he ever drove is in the room, and it's trying to kill him in his cell. It's a Mini or a Bug or something like that. And he battles the car, and he has to choke it to death with his bare hands. and I've decided that the last line of the film is gonna be fucking little car shit. Your MOT is not up for renewal. And that's it. That's the end of the film. I think we can all agree that Jason Statham killing a car with his bare hands would be something pretty special. Anyway, I genuinely started out wanting to make a horror Fast and the Furious film, but it all became a bit Scooby-Doo, didn't it? Very quickly.
It's not like there's not precedent for this sort of thing, Stephen King wrote Christine. All right, Alan, take us home.
When you're back seat, we're putting our feet up on the...
Get your feet down. Turn this car around.
Oh, could I have one of these mints, Alan?
That's not a mint. Don't take that.
Oh, shit.
So my pitch is, I like to find truth in art, and certainly didn't find it.
Alan, what's that noise? It sounds like someone's trying to get out of the boot.
My pitch is, I want to try and bring some reality back to the franchise. So I'm gonna set it in what I know of the car world, the car community. Now, my experience with people who like cars are those 18-year-old boys who hang around McDonald's car park with like a souped-up Vauxhall Corsa. And that's the thing. So I'm gonna combine that with one of my favourite things is watching YouTube videos of young, almost always white teenage boys performing stunts or otherwise sort of putting themselves in danger in a kind of Jackass style, really shouldn't have tried this at home kind of way.
Brilliant.
Which is absolutely fantastic. So these two things come together quite nicely. So my film is kind of a meta idea about two teenage boys, British sort of London boys. They love Fast and the Furious so much they decide to make their own fan film. We'll call them Jason and Darren, and they've both got these stupid cars. They like driving fast. I don't know what cars they drive, these people, but you know. Throw in a few surrounding characters as well, you know, fast-talking, wisecracking one like an orphan or something, and they have to befriend him. I don't know, you know, the usual kind of Fast and Furious emotional nonsense. Again, to tie into Fast and Furious, but then to try and make it more realistic, you could have one of them like keeps going on about family, how they're brothers and they're all family and stuff, and then the other one goes, "Nah, mate, that's gay. That is well gay," because that's more realistic. Also, again, because in the interest of reality, there won't be any girls in their little gang because that just doesn't happen. And I don't think, as liberated and modern as I like to be, I really don't think girls are that into cars, especially not like teenage girls. Certainly not in the same extent that teenage boys are. So I think we're just going to have to accept that. But because they do make an effort in Fast and the Furious to get those female characters in there, Michelle Rodriguez being the obvious example, but then the pink one in the second film, and so they do make that effort, and it's nice. I just think it's completely unrealistic.
Well, the thing is, when the stereotype is when a man gets into his cars, then you end up with these tits, like you say, in McDonald's car parks, like revving their engine. When a woman does it, stereotypically, you just end up with one of those cars with "powered by pixie dust" written on the back and eyelashes on the the headlights.
God.
Okay, yeah. So, but we want to have some females in there, obviously. So we could have the girls who hang around because they hang around the boys with these cool, souped-up cars because they're so cool. But they won't walk around. Sol got here ahead of me, actually, when we were talking about this earlier. But they won't be walking around in bikinis. It's far too cold for that. So our boys, they decide they want to make a film of them doing loads of awesome stunts with their cars, patch together some kind of plot around it. Like pretend they're gangsters or something, like doing drug deals and all that. We want to get to the good stuff, yeah. We can play around with their acting, have a few laughs about that, but we want to get to the stunts, we want to get to the action. Now, we could put an early action scene in. This is a more realistic action scene where Jason, he's one of the boys, he's had his suspension lowered on his car, because that's cool, right? And then he drives over a speed bump at 4 miles an hour and it knocks his back bumper off. So that's like a first action scene.
I like this.
So we can build on that. So you get some general driving bits, and they can do that thing where they spin around in a circle. They all like doing that. It ruins your tyres. You shouldn't do it, but whatever. Unfortunately, they don't know that much about the way that film works. They don't realise that the cars that get used in these films are not really like proper cars. They're basically just reinforced steel cages with a car mould over the top of it, so that nobody dies. They can't afford to smash up their cars anyway, right? So they have to be careful, because that's the other thing about Fast and the Furious is, like, especially in the third one, where they are supposed to be like these teenage kids. They've all got these cars that they smash up, and then it's just like, oh yeah, just buy another one, that's fine. Oh, I'll race you for this car that I've spent 6 months building. It's just ridiculous. So These guys have got one car, and they have to look after it. And they put their own neon lights on it, put a huge sound system in the boot. They can't really smash up their cars too much, so they want to make up for it by adding in lots of gunfights. So they get some replica guns off the internet. They start filming a scene in which they drive, around a transit van and like rob the van. Now, because this is one of their mates like works for his dad's moving company, so he can borrow the van, so they can do that. Now, unfortunately, shortly after they start filming this scene, they find themselves surrounded by an armed response unit because someone locally has seen these kids running around with guns and phoned the police. Now, Dominic Toretto, he'd probably respond to that in one. That's Vin Diesel's character, by the way. He'd probably respond to that in a sort of like he'd kick someone's arse and then drive off and escape. Now, our boys, they don't quite react. What they do is quietly sit down and do exactly what they're told by the men with big guns, because they could kill them. Because if it was America, they would have just been shot immediately and then ask questions later. But this is Britain, so we're all right. So after they get arrested, they get taken to the police station, and basically, it pans out. It becomes clear they're just some kids who got carried away. So they ultimately let go with this. Essentially a slap on the wrist, but they have to go to a court date. They get bound over to keep the peace for like 2 years, so to make sure they don't get into any more trouble. But they're undeterred in their efforts. They're now even more keen to prove themselves as the badasses that they know they are deep down. They're filming a stunt. Darren, he's gonna drive his Subaru Impreza, whatever it is. He's gonna speed around this quiet suburban neighborhood. He's going to drift around the corner. It's going to be really cool. But unfortunately, his first attempt to drift, he misjudges it completely, smashes directly into a lamppost.
Oh dear.
Now he's taken to hospital in an ambulance. He's rushed into emergency surgery and taken to intensive care. But unfortunately, after 5 days, he succumbs to his injuries and dies. Just let that sink in.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to teach the children a lesson with this film, all right?
Do you have Vin Diesel cameo at any point? Like he comes to the hospital and like lays a single rose by the boy's bedside table.
Yeah. They do an appeal because Vin Diesel's his favourite actor, and he has to come and like do that thing where they stand by someone in a coma. He's dead. Now, if this was America, his parents would not only have lost their son, but they'd also be saddled with a $200,000 medical bill. But luckily, this is Britain, so it's all free, thanks to the wonder of socialism that is the NHS. That the government is currently in the process of dismantling.
It's a bit of a sidestep.
Not relevant to the plot at all. I just drop it in there. So don't worry about that. His parents don't have to pay for his medical bills, but they do have to find 12 grand for his funeral. So that's what funerals cost. It's ridiculous. So to help raise the money, Jason decides, he will finish the film and he can dedicate it to the memory of Darren. And then he'll sell it to YouTube and make loads of money. That's how you release films these days. He knows he needs some realistic action to really make this thing sell. So he comes up with a fantastic idea. He wants to film a car chase, so he'll actually start a car chase. He's going to get the cops to chase him. So he drives around, gets a mate of his in the back with a camera, and then he waits until he finds a police car nearby. So then he sort of goes up near them, throws a plum at their car, and then shouts, "Fucking pigs!" and drives off. Obviously, he's trying to incite a police chase. So he speeds off. The police go after him. They're pursuing him. They speed down a couple of streets. But then, the police, they slow down and they just let him go. Because car chases are extremely dangerous, and the police don't want to escalate them because it ends in crashes, it ends in innocent people getting run over, and so basically they just don't do it. He's a bit disappointed, Jason. He didn't get the footage he wanted, but goes home, and about an hour later, the police turn up at his door. Of course, they just took his number plate, checked it against the insurance registry, so they went straight to him. Unfortunately, it was actually registered under his dad's name, because being an 18-year-old boy, his insurance would have been like £4,000 a year. So they said it was his dad's car and that he was an occasional second-name driver to try and keep costs down. Gets into a bit of trouble, a lot of legal wrangling, and because of his previous trouble, basically he gets given 150 hours of community service. He gets disqualified from driving for a year, and he's in Dutch with his dad. He's in a lot of trouble. Gets grounded. Now, he can't drive anymore. Now, this also means he loses his part-time job delivering pizzas for the local takeaway. Dad insists he has to get a job, make something of his life, gets a job at the local warehouse, starts working in dispatch, and then eventually trains up and gets his forklift license. Within a couple of years, he's working full-time as a forklift driver, earning £12 an hour. He's quite happy with that. He does this for 35 years until he gets stomach cancer, unable to afford proper healthcare in a now privatised health system. He quickly dies, leaving behind 2 children that he hadn't seen for 6 years.
Was that the end?
That's the
Credits roll? Oh,
Yes.
right. Oh.
You know, I wanted to bring some brutal reality into the world of Fast and Furious because that's what it needs. We need to teach the young people that it's not cool to drive dangerously.
But it is.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, cool. Oh, God. I can't even drive.
I mean, here's a question: when you're like walking down the street and then a car just goes like and like flies down the road, do you think,
Yes.
"Wow, what a cool guy,"
Wanker.
or do you think,
No.
"What a fucking cock"?
What a cock.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
It's like the kinds of people who would get on public transport and not put headphones in to listen to music and just
Oh,
have it playing on
Oh
their
yeah,
iPhone.
Yeah.
I would quite happily have those people killed on the spot
Yeah.
and feel no guilt whatsoever.
Yeah.
No, I think the only time if I'm ever impressed with a car, it's just when you just notice that it's a lovely car, it just glides past. You think, oh yeah, nice. If that car was to then stop at some traffic lights and then do a vroom, vroom, I would hate
I think
it.
the only time I've ever been impressed with a car is if it's like a DeLorean or a Batmobile or something, and it's on display in the Warner Brothers lot.
You two both drive regularly, right?
What? No,
You do drive, don't you?
I haven't driven in about 4 years.
All right, Saul, it's down to you then. You're the driving correspondent. Is it cool to drive fast and all that?
It's unnecessary. When have you ever got to be anywhere that quickly?
I don't think boy racers are doing it to get somewhere. just
Yeah, it's the thrill. The thrill of it. Did someone say that?
What?
what?
Oh, did someone say the thrill of it in a really like story-like way?
I thought you did.
You said
Oh, I thought I did, and then I thought I heard someone else say something, but maybe I'm just imagining something.
it. That was the ghost of Paul Walker.
Paul. Thanks for listening, everyone. Do come back next week because we're doing Calvin's favourite film of all time. As always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, review, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. If you're enjoying the show, let people know about it. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
What's that behind you? It's Paul Walker.
He's got a steering wheel.
So then he sort of goes up near them, throws a plum at their car, and then shouts, "Fucking pigs!" and drives off.
Is that inspired by...
That was a private joke, which is just for Saul.
Oh, right. I was like, oh, okay. It's funny, but I didn't quite.
Oh, God.
Is it the plum bit?
yeah. There's a reason I chose a plum. I was hoping that wouldn't get lost on you because I didn't want to have to explain it.
I just assumed I'd missed something.
Back when we were living together in London,
They were doing some roadworks on their road, and because it was such a busy sort of interchange, they were doing it in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And there was no traffic. So this was just a team of like 2 guys, and then they had this bit coned off, and then they were waiting for someone else to come back and sort something out. So they just sat in their van. It was like a transit van. I think. So we were like on the 3rd floor, like so we're like above them now. No, for whatever reason, me and Saul are up at like 2:00 in the morning. we decided we had some plums.
It's not they were Sean's plums.
Yeah, they were Sean's plums, obviously. Yeah. Neither of us would buy plums.
But I think we were trying to teach Sean a lesson about buying plums. Like, we were trying to tell him off for buying plums or something. Trying to teach our housemate a lesson for buying plums.
So anyway, I got one of the plums, and I leaned out of the window. I threw the plum out of the window, and it landed smack on top of the van with like a resounding thud.
It was really loud.
And then we sat like at the window, tittering like schoolgirls, like watching as these
like
two guys. These two guys like thought they were being like, I don't know, stoned or
this was in
something.
Brixton, I should add, which
This is in Brixton in the middle of the night.
Fairly recently, just seen, riots and stuff, so...
And then I think they just sort of like immediately sort of drove off down the road and then came back because they had to pick up the cones that they'd left out. And they sort of like, they had to sort of run out and grab these cones and throw them in the back of the van.
They drove down the road and then we like ran to the other side of the flat and we could see the other side, and one of them like came out looking really worried, and he sort of looked at the side of the van and looked all around like really worried, like as quickly as he could, looking all around like worried that they'd been shot at or something, or that like a brick had been thrown at them or something.
But it made such a loud noise from where we were, like in the van. It must have like sounded like someone just like, like when like a man with a claw for a hand lands on the roof of the car, like that. So
did it leave a dent?
No,
or...
no,
it was a
plum. It just splattered on it.
Oh, man.
Is it worth pointing out I was in my late 20s at the time? It's just...
Well, yeah, I was in my early 20s.
I don't even know why. What were we doing? We were just watching them, like,
I think so.
fix the road.
We were watching them.
Let's chuck a plum at them.
We had been for ages. We were keeping an eye on them, and then we were
keeping an eye on them.
We were annoyed that Sean had bought plums, so he had to like do something with his plums.
This is like, we also at a different time. Sol bought a watermelon.
Right.
Cut a big slice out of it. Ate it, realised he didn't like watermelon.
I've done
So
that.
then he had this,
I do that so often. I always forget that I don't.
It's just like it was summer. He sees this juicy watermelon, he gets excited, and then he just realises he doesn't like it.
Pretty much every year I do that.
So we had this watermelon, giant watermelon, with like one slice cut out of it, and then we kind of gouged a couple of holes in it so it looked like a face, like eye holes and a smile. And then it potted around for a while. We left it in Sean's bed for him to find, and then the sort of the ultimate of it, I don't know why, we kind of strung it up with something and hung it out of the window. And so we just left it there until we realised we just sort of lynched a watermelon in Brixton. We had to get rid of it.
We were hanging it out of the window so that it could like peer in. And I remember, I think was Sean having a date or something in the living room. And I want to say it was like Sean had brought a girl back or something, and they were watching a film,
must have been.
and so we were hoisting it out of his room, like the balcony he
dangle
had,
it,
like dangling it down, so that it would like look
tap on the window.
through the window. So they'd be like, Sean would go, oh, hear a tap, go, what's that? And look out the window, and there'd be just a big grinning watermelon looking in with like eyes. And then we just left it there as a decoration for a bit.
Fruit-based anecdotes. Anyway,
Good.
let me get back to this, otherwise we'll never finish. So, he throws a plum at the car, shouts fucking pigs and drives off.